and welcome to a super special edition of Browns Live today. I'm Aditi Kinkhabwala, of course, and I'm joined by a man who ordinarily would not need an introduction, except that he's still shrinking.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Chris Rose for a second there.
Exactly.
My good buddy, Chris Rose.
You're funny. Is this the way it's going to go during the preseason
I sure
in the
hope
booth?
so, because I'm really going to enjoy myself. I am so fired up that we're working together.
It's going to be fun.
Again.
Absolutely, and Aditi will be there on the sidelines to tell all the amazing
sidelines.
stories we've got.
And they're stealing my thunder already. Is that what happens to a sideline reporter?
Absolutely not. We will not freeze you out. That happens on some, not on the Cleveland Brown preseason broadcast.
Joe Thomas, longtime Brown, 10-time Pro Bowler, Browns legend, really, not just longtime Brown, and you're the color guy.
I'll be there in the booth with my guy Rosie and be
And
able to talk to you and get the inside scoop from the sideline.
We'll see.
It's going to be
Well,
pure
you
joy.
think in Jacksonville it'll be hotter in the booth or on the field?
I've already started sweating, even though it's a week and a half away.
We should tell our viewers that it is about 93 degrees right now.
Well, that's good.
We're just getting acclimated, right?
Yes.
I think that's good. You need that period of acclimatization, as we've seen from the
What
Browns.
was that word?
You know, acclimatization. You got to get ready, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be steamy in
Acclimatization.
Jacksonville, and that's why we turned up the heat here in Berea, Ohio today.
As it sits right now at the time of this taping, a 6-game suspension. So Kevin Stefanski has a lot of questions in terms of how he's going to handle the preseason games. And we're a week and a half away from the first one. It's a Friday night down in Jacksonville. How much does he play Deshaun Watson, who has not played since January of 2021? How much does he play Jacoby Brissett, who's going to be your quarterback, presumably, for the first 6 games of the season with the ones? All sorts of things. Joe, you and I were talking about this, that really Kevin Stefanski and his entire coaching staff almost have to get set for 2 different seasons. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you expect Jacoby Brissett's going to be there for the first third or so of the season. Then you're going to have Deshaun Watson. But both of these guys are new to this offense, to these offensive players. And so it's really important for them to get as many reps as they possibly can so they can get on the same page with those skill guys especially. Like, you expect they're going to be on the same page with their offensive line, right? The communication that they'll have calling out the different fronts and the different protections and the running scheme, that'll be pretty easy and pretty seamless. But it's figuring out all those little nuances that they need to with those receivers. Hey, if the guy's trailing a little bit here, I want you to break off your route here. If I give you this little symbol, I'm going to hit my face mask. I want you to turn it into a go route. Like, it's all those little things that they need to be able to pick up on, and the only way you can do that is through practice or in those preseason games.
But for a guy, sorry, Aditi, but for a guy who hasn't played now, he didn't play at all last year.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So now he's going to be out of the building for 3 weeks before he can be allowed back in. Then he's got to reassimilate himself, all that sort of stuff. How much would you like to see Deshaun Watson play in the preseason with the ones?
Well, that's a difficult question, right? Because in today's modern football, the ones don't really even play much in the preseason. So that's going to be a careful balance that Kevin Stefanski is going to have with how much do I want to put my ones out there to get that experience that they need, because they are going to be playing with this quarterback at some point during the season, and how much do I need to rest them and go with maybe a more standard preseason plan where my ones aren't playing. And so I think he's definitely going to have to err on the side of giving those guys more reps than you normally would in the preseason, because you do have 2 different quarterbacks, and you are kind of, like you mentioned, getting ready for 2 different seasons with both of those guys.
So I think as we say all this, there's still a level of uncertainty in that we believe the suspension is 6 games. The NFL still has the opportunity to appeal that. That could be more. We haven't seen Kevin Stefanski change what he started with. And so what I mean by that is that you'll see Deshaun Watson take 4 reps with the ones, then Jacoby Brissett come in for 1 rep with the ones, then Jacoby Brissett take the 4 reps with the 2s. Even though we got that news on Monday, Kevin Stefanski hasn't moved off of that just yet, because as the Browns are saying, the process is not fully complete until we know what the NFL is doing. You have to imagine Jacoby Brissett is going to get more reps with the ones once we know for sure what that suspension is.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, you want to split the reps, but does Kevin want Jacoby to get more reps as we get closer to the season?
Yep.
Correct.
Or
right.
he may be thinking, hey, Deshaun's going to be gone those 6 weeks, and he's going to be out of the building for 3 weeks, so maybe I want him having more reps closer to when he's going to come back, so that layoff isn't quite as long. So a lot of things for them to take into consideration.
You don't know the answer? Because all
And
Kevin
I don't
tells
have the
me is
answer.
I have a plan. He says
And
that
I'm
we have a
sure he's
plan.
got many plans, and none of which he is sharing with any of us at this juncture in the season.
You know, if you do look back, though, to when Ben Roethlisberger was suspended for 4 games, initially it was deemed a 6-game suspension. Mike Tomlin played a lot of Ben Roethlisberger that preseason. So if that's a model in some way, to Chris's point, Deshaun Watson hasn't had live game action in a very, very long time. There's nothing that can replicate that other than getting some live game action.
And obviously today we're looking at a practice. Yesterday was the first day in pads. The Browns will have a day off tomorrow. They will resume on Friday, where you would imagine they would be back in pads. Let's remember, because of the new collective bargaining agreement, that there's only so many days that these guys can be in pads before the season starts. So, you know, when we're walking around in helmets and shorts and all that sort of stuff, what is the goal of a practice like today, Joe?
Yeah, I think what Kevin wants to see is he wants to see these guys playing just as fast as they would in a normal practice with pads on or a game up until the point of contact, right? And then at that point, it's more about body control. It's about hand placement. It's about how you fit your helmet on your defender that you're trying to block. And so he wants to see all those things like you normally would, but without some of the bigger contact and the big hits. And I think that's what the focus is in these training camps now that they're not hitting as much as they did even when I was playing. It's, hey, let's get our full speed rep. As you see here, Nick Chubb hitting a nice hole off the left side. He wants to see full speed. He wants to see perfect hand placement, perfect footwork, perfect eyes, perfect communication, right up until that moment that they're going to make contact and then lay off and keep the wear and tear and the injuries off these guys' bodies.
Do you think Nick Chubb likes the cheers? Because, I mean,
he'll never show it.
He will never. I mean,
never.
unbelievable.
You will not see that man with any emotion whatsoever.
Except for Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt can make Nick Chubb laugh. We've seen that. Okay, I have another question for you, though, Joe. We know that the offense differs a little bit with Deshaun Watson versus Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett will see more ball control. Deshaun Watson will see more empty, probably some more RPO game. How much of a challenge to the line is it?
Well, that's a great question because the actual physical playbooks are going to be very different, right? You're going to be bringing in more tight ends when you have Jacoby under center. You're going to be, like you mentioned, calling more RPOs, which a lot more of the inside zone type concepts, a lot of the concepts where you're trying to read either defensive linemen or linebackers off the ball. So for an offensive line, it just doubles the amount of work that you have to do in training camp getting in your playbook because you are adding a significant volume to what you're normally doing, especially when you're talking about the run game. Pass protection-wise, you're seeing a lot of the same protections. Like, it doesn't really matter who the quarterback is or how many tight ends or receivers you have on the field when you're talking about a protection scheme. But when you're talking about a run game and you've got Deshaun Watson in the pistol or in the shotgun, a lot of the stuff you're running is inside zones, and it's left, right, inside zone. That's sort of the concepts up front. Now, some of the things on the outside might change. There might be more window dressing with shifts and formations and motions, but from the offensive line perspective, it's very similar. Now, all of a sudden, you put Jacoby in there and you put him under center, maybe with an extra tight end. You have all sorts of different concepts with guards pulling and tight ends pulling and down blocks, and a lot of the stuff that we saw with Baker Mayfield last year where they like to get those guards on the edge pulling around. You're getting the toss cracks, some of the old school Vince Lombardi
Look
stuff.
Look how excited
with the
you are
I'm
saying
getting
this
so
stuff.
excited. I'm trying not to
Hold
get
on.
excited because I know you're going to
He's
start
salivating,
dripping
people.
sweat over here. It might just be some of the sweat here in this 90-degree day in Marie, Ohio, but it's going to be really fun, and I'm excited that you guys are going to be along the ride with me as we go through this preseason.
Yeah. Did you see Amari Cooper, by the way, a few plays ago catching a pass? He missed yesterday after he had tweaked his ankle in the practice on Monday. That was good to see.
He rivals Nick Chubb in the lack of diva quotient. When you talk about gentlemen that are businesslike.
If those two had to give an oral report after practice every day, which one's quitting football first?
Oh, definitely Chubb.
Yeah.
Amari will get going. If you talk about chess with Amari Cooper,
yeah, that's
usually
true.
he'll give you a little something.
Yeah, he's a bit of a chess man.
I like
so
it.
there we go.
All
Jacoby
right.
Brissett playing with the twos, it looks like, on this snap. And in and out of the hands of Jerome Ford, the rookie out of Cincinnati, whom we will be talking
Look at that.
And
That's
look at
exactly
Deshaun
what
and
we were
Amari
talking about there.
talking over exactly what they want and how he wants him getting out of his breaks or making his cuts.
Yeah, he was talking right there. You could say, hey, you know, if he's got man coverage, I want you to lean this way. And then when I see that, I know what you're going to do next. And that's not universal from one quarterback to the next or one receiver to the next. And that's why it's unique. And those guys have to have that practice time to figure those type of things out. You love seeing that type of stuff.
But, you know, this is what you often hear from a backup quarterback, that he needs to mimic what the starting quarterback likes to do, right? So that's part of the challenge for Jacoby Brissett, just as learning this offense is. And
one of the things that I heard from Coach Stefanski that I thought was really unique, and it was nothing that we had ever done, but he actually records the snap count of your starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson in this case, and they play it back in their meetings so that the other quarterbacks can mimic the cadence of that snap count so that they're not having different cadences when different quarterbacks go in the game. And as an offensive lineman, I appreciate that immensely. I would have paid great money to have that because your ability to get off the split second the ball is snapped is so important and key, especially in pass protection. And my biggest pet peeve was when we would switch quarterbacks, which hardly ever happened during my time in Cleveland.
Only every other
But we'd have a new
week,
guy
right?
come in, and he's got a new cadence that it's the same words, but it's just a little bit different pace. And it would throw you off because then you couldn't anticipate when the ball was being snapped. Then you had guys jumping off sides. You had guys trying to anticipate going a little bit too early or too late, and then you're getting beat. And then now you're thinking about something you shouldn't have to think about, which is the most basic thing in a football play. It's the snap count. That should be a no-brainer. You should be able to put that in the box and start to worry about trying to block a guy like Myles Garrett off the edge and not have to worry about what your backup quarterback snap count sounds
Hey,
like.
who had the best cadence?
Of the
Come on.
20-something.
Who had the
Brian
best vo-
Hoyer, I think.
Oh, Hoyer.
Well, just from
Good
like
Cleveland guy.
Yeah, of course. It's the Cleveland water. I think they gave him that gravel.
Well, he probably
voice.
learned it from Tom Brady,
Yeah, he probably
right?
did.
I mean,
But what I liked is he had all this.
Is he
the
still
same
playing, by the way?
code
Anybody
words.
know? Brady? What's happened to him?
Brady playing? I don't know.
45
Hard to
today.
know.
Jerk. What a
all right.
amazing.
Well, on that note, guys, we are going to break down the running backs and talk a little bit more about the offensive line since Joe's been spending this week coaching them up a bit when we come back. So stick with us. Browns Live. Welcome back to Browns Live. I'm joined by Chris Rose and Joe Thomas, of course, and now we move on to the running backs. Tell the truth. Is Nick Chubb your favorite running back of all time, Chris?
Well, you got to remember, I grew up here in Cleveland, and my formative years was late 70s and, the 80s. So you're talking about Greg and Mike Pruitt. You're talking about Kevin Mack and Ernest Biner. And don't forget about Boyce Green, Carson Newman one year. Listen, he's amazing to watch. And there's never been a running back in the history of this sport that has averaged 5 yards per carry in each of their first 4 years until Nick Chubb accomplished that a year ago. There's only one other player that has done that, and that's Cam Newton. So, I mean, it's incredible what he does. I mean, I know how much you appreciate him as an offensive lineman to watch what he does, how he sets things up, and he just is able to accelerate through the – I was super excited when they were able to get him early in the second round in 2018. I was like, oh, my gosh, I think we found something here. And remember, he sat on the bench for, like, the first half of the season. We were all like, can we please put 24 in? Like, anybody? Can we tap on – against the Raiders, he had, like, 3 carries for 97 yards. I was like, that's the dude who should be carrying the ball. He is just such a difference maker.
I heard he wasn't working hard enough in the weight room. That's
Yeah,
why they
is
didn't
that what
put
it
him on
was?
the field. Not strong enough. That was the big check mark against him. And glad he figured that out now on Instagram all summer, squatting 700-800 pounds.
Where do
looking
you
like
buy
He-Man.
one of those bendy bars, by the way?
They keep saying it was a bendy bar, but I don't believe that. I just think it was bendy because he had
Because
1,000
they had so much
pounds
weight
on
on
it.
it. Seriously. What's one thing that's underappreciated about him, Joe? Or what's one thing that maybe the layperson doesn't recognize?
I think what people don't realize is how absolutely enormously large he is. Like, I think you realize, like, he's a big running back, but because of how fast he is and how many explosive runs he has, people don't realize he is, like, almost the size of your center. Like, he is that large of a human being, and the laws of science say that a man that big should not be able to run as fast as he runs, and he's clearly a huge part of why their outside zone is so effective and why that rushing average, like you mentioned, Chris, is over 5 yards per carry, which is just remarkable because, remember, guys, the goal as an offensive lineman is to average
Chubb's laughing.
4 yards.
Nick
Oh, my
Chubb's
gosh.
laughing.
Did you get that? Hey,
That had to be
Cut
stock
that up.
footage.
Put
That was
that-
stock footage. That was not live, was
We're
it?
going to have to ask Kareem Hunt later.
We gotta
what
cut that up.
exactly did he
look
say?
at that. Oh, he's even talking back to him. Can you
Oh,
believe
my
it?
gosh.
Must be a
What's
He's
great
exceeding
day
his
out there.
words per minute.
As we see them together, I mean, the dynamic of the two of them working together, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, and not just on the field, the nature of how different they are, but really personality-wise, they're about as different as two guys can be, and yet they still work so well together.
I want to see them in the backfield together. That's just my vote. I know that early in camp you had seen that. Listen, when we're talking about the running backs as a whole, this is far and away the deepest running back room. If you're to rank
In
them
the
1 through
NFL.
32, the Browns are 1 in terms of
Correct.
depth.
Clearly.
There might be somebody who does not make this team that will be able to play a significant role for another squad. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with the roster. We know that Kareem Hunt is in the last year of his deal. They tendered Dearness Johnson, who had a fantastic year a season ago. They just drafted Jerome Ford in the 5th round, who had 19 rushing touchdowns for the University of Cincinnati a year ago. I mean, this is a deep, deep group, and that doesn't even count Demetric Felton, who's been working primarily with the wide receivers so far in camp.
And I think a lot of that is because they love how Jerome Ford catches the ball out of the backfield, and he is someone they think can play on special teams. I think it's interesting, however, that you mentioned that Kareem Hunt is in the last year of his contract. Does this become an issue in any way, or you think he's sufficiently happy in Cleveland?
Well, I think you mentioned the relationship that he has with Nick Chubb and how different they are as personalities, but to me that's why they work so well in that room, because you can imagine in a lot of other situations you have 2 stud running backs, 2 guys that you could easily argue are both top 5 running backs in the NFL splitting carries. You could see some acrimony in a lot of places, right, if they had the same type of personality and then butting heads, because they're hurting their own potential financial earnings long term by splitting those carries as a running back, especially for a guy like Kareem Hunt, who's potentially going to be a free agent. He wants an opportunity to show everybody in the NFL, hey, I can be a feature back, I can carry the load, and I'm just as good as I was the year that I led the NFL in rushing. But you don't see any of that because of that relationship that they have.
But they're also extending their careers,
Well,
you
that's
could
a big
argue,
thing.
Absolutely.
right?
I mean, Todd Gurley, does he have a job right now?
There's
The
something to be
Rams
said
ran
for
him
that.
into the ground.
Exactly.
So Kareem Hunt, I think, is probably smart enough to understand. Now, does he want to continue that? Who knows? Does he love it here? He grew up here.
Right.
He grew up a Browns fan. He has resurrected his career. There's no question about that. So
I do want to go back to what you said about seeing both of them together in the backfield, because I feel as if I've been asking Kevin Stefanski and
Right.
Alex Van Pelt about this for years, and Kevin keeps saying there's such a nice 1-2 punch, that it's kind of that thunder lightning, it's that change of pace, and he loves that. But again, I think there would be so much value to see them both out there.
isn't the job to get the ball to your playmakers?
Right. And
if
Are
you
they
were to
not?
rank the playmakers on this team offensively, where do Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt rank? After your starting quarterback, they might be 1-2. Right. I mean, it's possible. So I'm just saying that there are times. Don't you think that you could play 2 exceptional running backs at the same time? Wouldn't that give the defense something more to think about? You're the analyst.
Well, I am the expert. You're right. I'm glad you mentioned that, Chris. You know, I'm really interested and curious to watch, because with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, you're going to see a lot more shotgun than we have.
Right.
And you're going to see a lot more pistol formation, which is one of my favorite formations, because it gives you the ability to run all of your under center rushing concepts from essentially the shotgun, because when you take a halfback and you put him offset, now he can kind of only come one way because he has to come back to the quarterback to get the football. So it really cuts in half your options that you can run in the rushing playbook. So putting him behind the quarterback, it opens everything up again. Now having Kareem and Nick Chubb in your backfield with a quarterback in pistol or shotgun gives you the ability to be enormously creative and come up with concepts that defenses haven't even seen, but you can really hurt them and you can dictate to them how you want to play, because you do have 2 guys who are top 5 running backs in the league who have tremendous ability and talent. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see Kevin has come up with a specific set of running plays that we haven't yet seen for when you do get Deshaun Watson and those 2 studs in the backfield together.
you've been visiting Alex Van Pelt, right? You've
AVP,
suggestion
my
box?
guy.
Have
It's
you
been
been
in the
putting this
comment
in the
box every
suggestion?
morning when I go in there and work out with the great Evan Marcus.
And is he listening to you? That's the question,
Probably
I guess.
not. Just like the offensive coordinators never listened to me when I was playing the game. Now I'm just a bozo talking about the
were
game.
you that kind of a player? Would you
I was
go in
the
and
guy.
throw
Oh,
in
especially when Kyle
suggestions?
Shanahan was the offensive coordinator, because I would see things as far as like just little weaknesses in where the defense was aligned to certain formations, and it gave, especially when Joel and I were playing next to each other, I was like, man, this, let's say defensive tackle, he's playing a 4-eye, which is sort of inside to me. It gives both of us leverage to get to the outside and get them reach right away. So let's put in this toss, crack, bob type play, and I think we can hook this guy right away. And it was great because he listened to our suggestions, whereas most offensive coordinators be like, yeah, thanks for your suggestion. We're not doing any of that stuff anyway. We're just throwing the football. I'm not sure if you know, but I get paid to throw the football and to put up stats for the quarterback. I don't really care about your little silly running game.
See, this is why you love Kyle Shanahan, because he
That's
actually listened
exactly
to
right,
you.
because he actually listened. He cared about the running game. What a novel concept.
Okay, so let's move on to Dearness Johnson, though. Is he the best number 3 running back in the NFL?
I would be surprised if teams don't call about him.
Right.
I mean, I would never want to lose him, But I'm just saying that, I mean, this guy could start on a bunch of teams. He could certainly be the guy that splits carries with a bunch of teams out there, and good teams, in my opinion. I have a couple in mind, but I'm just saying that he is that good. Now, we saw what a savior he was last year because Kareem Hunt missed 9 games. Right, with calf and ankle issues. So, this is a run-heavy team, and we know that's going to be the way it'll be for the first 6 games
At
as
least,
well.
for sure.
So you have to weigh Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski as they're putting together this roster. They have to weigh that as
He
well.
has a nimbleness to him. I was watching them on ladder drills earlier, and let me tell you, he was doing some sort of hopscotching little thing that Nick Chubb was able to do, and that Kareem Hunt then gave up on.
Well, that's because I spray painted the numbers in between the I really wanted these guys to follow the rules.
Is that how it goes?
He's a stickler for the rules, that Chris Rose, I tell you.
Rules stickler.
You're the one that's going to be stuck in the booth with him. So.
That's right.
He's already regretting this.
He's probably monitoring the
Yeah.
amount
By the way,
of time
is-
that you talk.
Is Stump Mitchell the best?
I love that guy.
Does he have the best beard?
I mean,
or is he
he's got the best
period?
image, like branding-wise. He needs
is
to
just
have
great.
major marketing
You two are too
contracts.
young to
Seriously.
even remember seeing him play. I saw him
That's
get a
true.
1,000-yard season when he was with the Cardinals. St.
Really?
Louis. Oh, yeah.
The St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, I saw them come into town one year and beat us opening day. It was a driving rainstorm. I was there.
You think he's ever put up his film for his running back room?
Oh, he better
This
have.
is how I used to do it.
I hope so.
I hope so, too.
I hope he's got that highlight film like on his iPhone in the favorites folder where he's just ready at any moment to airplay that baby.
I remember when Keith
This
Butler
is what
was
it should look
coaching the linebackers in Pittsburgh, and he, of course, played in the league for 10 years with the Seahawks. And they'd give him such a hard time about, hey, coach, you don't know how to tackle. You don't know how to tackle. And he'd pull out, oh, actually, I
Hey,
really
every now
do
and then you
know
got to just roll the tape.
how to tackle.
Hey, roll the tape, kids.
That's got to be a fun room to coach.
And here, of course, is Josh Rosen, who's, being given an opportunity. He certainly has a lot of talent. We'll see. Look, they're going to need 3 quarterbacks, and they will need one on the practice squad, even once Deshaun Watson comes back. I think it's a nice opportunity for him.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the important battles to watch during training camp because with your starter being suspended, we expect it to be 6 games. That third guy who usually isn't even dressing is 1 play away from being the starter in your game.
And one more note. Let's keep in mind that is an important area because Josh Dobbs, who's currently the number 3, you would believe, has not started an NFL game. And Josh Rosen, I believe this is now his 6th team since he was drafted in the first round in 2018 by the Arizona Cardinals. So he's trying to find his way as well.
Well, if you have bias towards certain players, I certainly have a bias towards Mr. Rocket Scientist, Josh Dobbs. I'm a big fan of his. In any case, all right, we will be right back after this on Browns Live, so stick around. Welcome back to this edition of Browns Live. Chris Rose, Joe Thomas. We do have our first game for us.
Yes.
Right? I mean, we're a team. We're part of.
On the 12th of August
It's a
in
big
Jacksonville.
deal for us.
It
don't
is.
you
Huge
think?
deal.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
feel
Can't
like
wait.
I'm more excited about our role than what's happening out there.
The people
but
out there are not more excited about us than seeing them
That's
on the
fine.
football field.
But in
So-
any case, when we're thinking about the football field, Friday night in Jacksonville, which surely will be just as hot, give me a positional group you're really sort of curious about.
It doesn't sound super sexy, but I am curious about the interior of the defensive line. Like, I'm good on the edges.
Okay?
Miles,
You like
Jadeveon.
Clowney and Myles
Yeah, I
Garrett?
think they're fine.
Fine. You
So
think
now-
they're fine.
They're just fine.
It's the
Everything's
interior
fine.
of the defense, right? You've got to stop the running game. As much as we talk about Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, Joe Mixon was the NFL's 3rd leading rusher a year ago. We know what Baltimore's all about. With Pittsburgh having their own quarterback questions, we know what Najee Harris is all about in his 2nd year. So who are those young guys? A lot of them middle-round picks, now not superstars coming out of college. Who's going to take that leap and even, mix into this rotation?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important because there's teams in this division, namely the Pittsburgh Steelers, that don't really have a quarterback that they want to sit back and throw the ball 40 or 45 times. So they're going to try to pound you. They're going to try to get into a formation where they have an extra tight end, a fullback, and they're going to try to run the ball up the middle. So how are you going to be able to stop that when teams say, hey, this is what we're going to do. I dare you to stop us. Is it going to be with scheme? Are they going to just put more defensive ends, more skinny guys on the field and try to blitz them and stunt them and try to take away things with a schematic advantage? Or are you going to find those guys in the middle that can hunker down, they can drop a knee, and they can take on a double team, and they can stop it and plug up the middle. So I think, to me, that's a big question, and I think we're going to find out early on in the preseason what type of a team they want to be on defense and how they're going to stop the run when you do encounter a team like the Steelers who can't really throw the football down the field as effectively as some of the high-flying offenses in the NFL.
Now,
Well,
even
and
though
the Ravens are going to. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know the Ravens are going to run the ball too. We're looking at Perrion Winfrey. He fell in. The city fell in love with him when he barked on draft night.
Sure.
But the talent. Do we think that he has something that he can be a contributor this year?
Well, he played over the nose most of the way in Oklahoma, and then they moved him to the 3 technique down there at the Senior Bowl, and he was eating some guys out, including a guy who was drafted in the first round by the New England Patriots. So
you're sold.
He ended up being the Senior Bowl MVP on that side of the football. Can he bring that sort of intensity? I mean, I don't think there's a question about that. It's still learning the NFL game, which Joe can talk about a lot more. But there's a lot of guys with stuff to prove here. Jordan Elliott's now in the 3rd year of his rookie contract. This is a time where he's number 96, has got to start doing his thing, and people have talked about how he's reshaped his body and all sorts of stuff. That's great. But we've seen plenty of guys who look awesome in the weight room, and they don't carry it out to Sundays. So he's got to make that step. You're talking about Taven Bryant, who signed a deal after being a first-round pick with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Did not have his 5th-year option picked up. So he's trying to still define his NFL career and what he's all about, number 99. Tommy Togiai really couldn't get on the field last year, number 93, the 4th-round pick a year ago out of The Ohio State University. You know, these are young guys that are given a great opportunity. Right? If you're a sports fan in this town, it's like when the Guardians give young outfielders an opportunity. If you're a Cleveland Brown youngster, you're going to get your shot at playing defensive tackle. It's what do you do with it?
All right, well, you give me a positional group. We know who he's most excited to see in Jacksonville. Who are you curious about?
Yeah, I'm excited to see that wide receiver room and how that shakes out, right?
Yes.
Because obviously we know Amari Cooper, he's going to be the number 1 receiver if he's out there and healthy. And that's going to be a huge part of this offense is getting the ball down the field to Amari. But is it going to be Schwartz who's going to be that number 2 guy who can take the top off? He can be the guy that can stretch the ball vertically. He can stretch the field vertically with their play-action passing. That's one of the keys to Kevin Stefanski's offense.
And he has been working on catching the ball. We know that that's just not a natural talent. So he has put in a lot of time there.
Which is somewhat unfortunate because the position is called wide receiver.
You know, that was the big question mark about me coming out of college. You're like, well, he's really good at a lot of things, but he's just not a great blocker.
Nobody said that.
No.
I'm just kidding. I was like, I
But
didn't
that would
read
be
that
the
on the
same
report.
thing.
That would have been awesome.
That would be the same thing, right? As a receiver, your job is to catch. If you're not a great
Our
catcher,
buddy Daniel
that's a
Jeremiah
problem.
over at the NFL Network, I think, was working here in Cleveland at the time you were drafted. Was he already on to Philadelphia or somewhere else?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I was a little over my head, and I didn't really know what was going on.
Didn't introduce yourself to
I was so worried about the playbook. I didn't really get to know all of the scouts
goodness.
upstairs, unfortunately. But you know, we talk about Schwartz, and he's the burner, right? He can catch the football, but it's the consistency of catching the football that is going to be most important for him to prove that he can be that number 2 guy that can really open up space in that intermediate area where Amari Cooper is so effective. And then who is going to be the other guy? Is it going to be Michael Woods? Can he be the 3rd receiver? Because remember, Deshaun Watson, he loves playing in 11 personnel, which means 1 tight end, 1 running back, and 3 receivers. So you're going to see a lot of that formation and personnel groupings with Kevin Stefanski, which is a little bit different what they were with Baker Mayfield, where it was more heavy personnel with tight ends and fullbacks in the backfield.
Well, we don't want to forget Donovan Peoples-Jones, of course, because he's been rising in each of the last few years. And in fact, the way that someone described Michael Woods to me was that he could be this year's Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah, it makes sense, right?
Right.
They both come from big-time colleges. Michael Woods second. He actually started at Arkansas, transferred to Oklahoma. Peoples-Jones, of course, star-studded receiver out of Michigan. Both were 6th-round picks. And there you see David Bell, who has yet to practice because of that ailing foot, number 18. Keep in mind that at Purdue, he was the Big Ten receiver of the year. And there were 3 other guys, 2 from Ohio State and 1 from Penn State, that ended up going in the 1st round as wide receivers. So that means this guy's got an awful lot of talent.
I hope we see them. From what I am being told, both Schwartz and Bell should be fine by the time we get down to Jacksonville. So they're not very significant things. But I think, again, with young receivers who are still sort of trying to make their way, all of this practice time is really necessary. You're kind of falling behind a little bit. Okay, so Kevin Stefanski is breaking everybody down. Chris Rose, I know, needs to skedaddle.
Good word.
Joe Thomas wants to go work with the offensive lineman because sitting here behind a desk
I'm
is
starting
making
to
him a little
get
antsy.
a little bit nervous.
Right?
If I see those guys out there doing drills by themselves, it's going to be a problem. I might have
Well,
to
you're
put the
wearing
headset
sneakers
off.
today. On
I
Monday,
know. I
you
made
were
the
wearing
huge
flip-flops
mistake of wearing
when-
flip-flops, thinking I was going to a day at the beach in Berea, and then all of a sudden Bill Callen's like, "Hey, Joe, you got the tackles. Coach them up. You got 10 minutes." And I'm like, "Oh, boy, here we go."
What was on the lesson plan?
Yeah, you know what? I didn't have my syllabus printed off yet. It was on my phone, so I was just completely unprepared, scrolling like a
What
bozo.
do you have today for them?
Yeah,
You're gonna have to
Oh,
turn
no,
the-
it's in here. Steel trap. Let me tell you.
You're going to have to turn your degree back into Madison.
Yeah.
They're not going to be happy about that at all. At
They
all.
were
That
prepared.
degree I printed off that says almost finished. You almost made it to the finish line. 98 yards.
As long as you're still donating, they don't care.
Well, okay. Don't go anywhere because we will be back. We will be back with Kareem Hunt. We'll get a full update on how the offensive line looks. But before we say goodbye, Chris Rose, we're going to have so much fun next
We are.
week.
We will see you Friday, August 12th. We cannot wait for the preseason schedule to kick off. And then we got 2 home games against the Eagles and the Bears. And it is going to be great.
And we have
Can't
a
wait.
challenge. Our producer, Jonathan Siegel, has said that the Browns broadcast crew last year ranked number 2 among all preseason broadcasts.
Ooh.
So now we have to make
About-
sure we
in-
net the
in terms of
highest
what?
ratings.
In terms of good-looking.
ratings.
Ratings. Oh, well, that's up to
We
them
need
out
the
there.
highest
I've got to be honest
viewership.
with you.
Well,
Not
come
to
on. Who wouldn't want 3 games of this?
Right. Exactly. It's perfect.
I don't see any problems
Oh, I
here.
caught
Everything
that.
is perfect. See, he's already
do you
showing
know?
off his
You already
hands. I
told
love
us
it,
you don't
Rosie.
need no-
That
Stefanski
was
should
gorgeous.
challenge that. I think I got both feet in bounds. All right, there you go.
All right, gentlemen, it's been a blast. Thank you
Been
so
a lot
much.
of fun.
All right,
Looking
Aditi.
forward to
Joe,
it.
you'll be back. You're not going anywhere.
Well, I'm just saying bye to Chris and
All
looking
right.
forward to seeing him again in Jacksonville.
See you, gang.
Take care. We'll see you back here at Browns Live in just a second. Welcome back to Browns Live. Joe, we get Kareem Hunt, the only man that can make Nick Chubb laugh.
That's a good one.
We saw it out there today, too. We were highlighting your great performance out there in the non-padded practice, and all of a sudden we saw Nick Chubb start to giggle and laugh, and he actually walked away from you guys because you were distracting him so much from the task at hand. And we got to ask you, what did you say to him to make him laugh?
It's a whole bunch of things, but he probably said something to me.
And then we did notice that he started talking back. He started
yeah,
chirping at
yeah,
some of the other
it
running
might
backs.
have been him
What?
causing a problem.
Why does it work so well between the two of you? Forget we'll get to on the field, but just off the field. Why do the two of you like working together so well, considering you're like A and B? You are about as different as can be.
Right. I think that's part of the reason. We're different type of people. You know, we're different running backs on the field, and you know, he's pretty quiet guy, and I'm an outgoing guy, and you know, it's finally it's great to see him finally having fun now, and you know, not just being so football. It's time to, you know, relax.
Maybe you're
live
seeing
life.
it. I don't know
Yeah,
that we're
I'm-
seeing it.
I'm seeing it, but you know, I love Chubb. He brings it every day, and we have fun with it too. So that's the only thing. That's how we get through these hot, long days of practice.
It's a little bit hot out there today, but one of the things that both Aditi and I have been talking about, because we're football experts here, and what we would really love to see a little bit more of this season is you and Nick Chubb in the same backfield at the same time. Do you think Coach Stefanski is going to open up the playbook with some creative opportunities, especially with Deshaun back there, maybe some pistol formations? Get an opportunity to have both of you guys back there to put a little bit of pressure on a defense so that they don't know if it's going to be a run play, which one of the two of you guys is going to get the football.
I believe so, and I know there's been a couple plays we've put in so far, and I'm just, you know, trying to expand the role and do whatever they need me to do. And if that's blocking for Nick or, you know, having Nick block for me, I'm down for whatever. You know, I just like going out there and playing football and helping the team win.
But Kareem, this is what I want to know. When Joe Thomas was a player, he would go to the coach's office and
That's
say,
right.
Kyle
Amen.
Shanahan, I want this. Do you do that? Do you go to AVP and say, put this in?
I don't do that, but, you know, I would love to go up there and say a couple things and tell them to put this in.
So
but
why not?
Hey,
Tell him Joe
not
Thomas
Joe
said
I'm going to
Thomas.
see you in the locker room. I'll go upstairs, and I'll show you exactly where his office is. We'll go up there together. We'll go start drawing on the whiteboard. Hey, this is Kareem Hunt, and this is Nick Chubb back here. And this is a little play that I think is going to get a touchdown the first Sunday in September when we're playing in Carolina.
So my plan is I'm going to send Nick up there and just tell him everything to say. They might take him for real.
He's going to
so.
loosen him up because he's
Me,
just going to
yeah.
stare at him like this. And they're going to get so nervous that they have to say yes to when you and I walk up there
Yup.
with a great game plan.
And then I'll just come up there a little later, like, did y'all get my note?
Well, okay, so obviously, let's talk about the offense a little bit. You're still putting everything. You're doing a little bit of everything right now. Does it feel significantly different than from a year ago with Deshaun and just from Deshaun to Jacoby?
Yeah, we've thrown in a lot of new things and just some different things we haven't done in the past, and I've done them before. Some things from Kansas City I've done, and I'm RPO stuff like that. But it really it's a lot of different things they're putting together and putting in.
Specifically between Jacoby and Deshaun, because we expect to have both of those guys starting significant games during this season. What are the plays that maybe Kevin is focusing on more with Jacoby versus Deshaun and vice versa? Is it like, what concepts are you seeing get called a little bit more? Or is it maybe personnel groupings that you're seeing more with one guy over the other?
I really can't tell. Right now it's.
Oh, he's playing hard to get here.
He doesn't want to get in
close
trouble.
to his vest.
Right now it's.
Stefanski, he never watches the show. You can open up and tell us the name of the play if you'd like.
No, right now it's just they're throwing in a lot of different things and trying some things out right now. So really don't know what the game plan is going to be until that week. Which it changes every week sometimes. Sometimes we attack different things and certain things work against teams that certain things might not work against others.
You're seeing a lot more RPO with Deshaun, a lot more zone read type stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And what's the mental challenge of that, to introduce all of that this year now?
I mean, I don't really think it's that mental challenge. It's football. You just gotta take care of the football. With those things, you gotta make sure you don't have blockers downfield. You gotta make sure you guys are good with the mesh and everything.
One of the things we've been seeing so far in training camp is Deshaun hitting the running backs out of the backfield a lot. He's done a great job hitting you guys in stride, giving you catchable footballs so you can run after the catch. How important is that for you as a running back, especially a guy like you who's got such great hands, being able to have a quarterback that can deliver you the football where you can turn around and actually see the guys that are trying to kill you before they actually try to kill you?
It's great. Ball placement is the biggest thing, and he has great touch with his passes and, ball placement. So you're going to be able to catch it and run and, get yards after, the catch.
We were having a discussion earlier today. Is this the deepest running back room in the entire National Football League?
Hands down, no doubt, It's the deepest.
All right,
From top to bottom, even to JK.
Tell us one thing about the rookie, Jerome Ford, that nobody knows.
He has some speed, man. He definitely can run. And, he a kind of quiet, shy guy, so at points, but he's the rook, so it bees like that sometimes. So I'm excited to see, what he brings to the table. Definitely got some burst.
What have you seen from him thus far?
This far?
Yeah.
I've seen, a great burst, and, he got some good hands from the backfield and things like that. I'm excited to see what his career looks like because I like the way he plays. And he has good vision.
Can you tell us the truth? And we promise not to tell anyone. That Nick Chubb video, is it fake?
Which
with
one?
the 1,000 pounds?
The squat. Are you telling him, like, hey,
man.
Let's not put all that weight on your back. You don't need to do that. Like, those poor vertebrae are just crying right now. Like, why do you have to do that? First of all, you're embarrassing us because we can't do that.
Wait a minute.
Second
you know
of all,
that Kareem can't do that. Kareem, can you do that?
I'm assuming because I've never seen a running back.
That was my
squat.
warm-up
Yeah,
set.
right. That's right. Actually, you didn't see the
I'm
second
sorry.
part of the video was Kareem going and getting his warm-up set in before he put 2 more 45s
Yeah,
on
before
each side.
2 more, yeah.
That's right.
I definitely, that guy's a different breed in the weight room, and, I love lifting with him, but sometimes if I'm not feeling it, I'm like, Chubb, I'm going to lift 3 racks down this way from you, man, so I ain't got to go super hard. So, but, that's just Chubb.
What
He
was
brings
the conversation or the text messages after that video went viral this summer? Did you hit him up just like, come on, man, just stop doing that? Like, it's not good for anybody.
No, I saw that. I said, all right, I got to go squat like 550, 600 today.
Is that what you do?
Which is a
that
lot of
what
weight.
you actually squat?
Huh?
Do you
Yeah, I can squat. I squat up there, in the 500s for sure.
See, I totally would have yelled at him. If he were my player, I'd be don't messing with that. That's way too much.
If he was my teammate, I'd be like, man, keep that off social media. Go do that on your own time, but it makes me look bad. And if you get hurt, it's going to make all of us look bad. So let's just keep that to yourself. We don't need to make anybody embarrassed right now.
All right, Kareem, last one. I know your family is here. You are in the last year of your contract right here. Is this the place that you feel that you want to finish out? Do you still feel happy playing in your hometown?
I mean, it's home. You know, I love it. I love all these fans out here. They got a lot of love for me, and you know, I've been playing football in Northeast Ohio for my whole career. You know, from Willoughby to Toledo to back here. And I honestly, my whole family's here, so it don't get no better than that. And I would love to finish out and help bring a championship to Cleveland because, like you said, I think I know every running back who's played since the 2000s in Cleveland. So
I know he knows more than you do.
There's no doubt. He was embarrassing me a little bit there with some of the names that he was throwing out. And I was like, hey, Kareem, let's be honest. I got drafted in 07. I don't know a whole lot of Browns before that unless they're named Doug Deacon or Bernie Kosar or Jim Brown.
I was a Dennis Northcutt guy. I liked him too.
Nice. I got a final question. What would it mean to you to ride in that parade in the streets of Cleveland, winning a Super Bowl in your hometown?
It'll mean everything. That'll be like my long life goal. You know, I feel like I did everything I wanted in football. You know, bring a championship home, you know, a Super Bowl, and, you know, I've led the league in rushing, and just, you know, that's a milestone that I would love to, you know, do. That's the next goal on my, you know.
Would it be like J.R. Smith? Are you going shirtless in the parade, or are you wearing your brown Super Bowl
He's
shirt?
already planning it.
Yeah, I already got it in my mind. I'm ready. I'm going to be there throwing beads.
Be shirtless. I might cut my hair. I might do everything. I might go insane.
I got to tell you something, though. If you cut your hair, save it. Edgerrin James cut his hair after he got tackled on the field against the Cleveland Browns. Saved that hair in a bag for 17 years. And when he got inducted in the Hall of Fame, it is right now in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Wow.
No way.
Is that
That's
a crazy story?
I wonder what that bag smells like. Hopefully it wasn't sealed so there was no air in there.
I don't know. But Kareem, save your hair if you cut it.
Hey, man.
And you all heard it here.
Hey, we got to win the Super Bowl then.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I might cut one of them.
Only one? Have you ever been tackled by your hair?
Yeah, I have. I mean, blocking, people like kind of grab your hair on accident and stuff like that. It's, you know, it don't feel good, but you play through it.
Like most things. We're getting down to the
Just gotta get
nitty-gritty
through it.
right here. All right, Kareem, we really appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
You don't have a question for Joe Thomas?
I think we've answered
When you coming back out?
Yeah.
You know,
If you're looking for tight ends that run
Yeah.
a 7
Look at how skinny he
0 40 that can't catch and can barely block, I'm your guy.
barely block. I don't know about that.
Kareem, we appreciate the time.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you
here.
so
All right,
much.
thank you. Yeah.
All right, Joe. Well, it's been a tremendous time. Thank you so much for joining us on Browns Live in this week in Cleveland.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's a beautiful day out there today. The Browns got in a lot of good work today, and they've gotten tons of great work towards that first preseason game here coming up in just a few days in Jacksonville.
Seriously, and you've been helping prep me for that one too,
Yeah,
so
we're
I
very
appreciate
excited.
that. All right, everybody, keep it on clevelandbrowns.com for any updated news, and we will see you on Browns Live again